Welcome to today's podcast episode, where we'll dive deep into an important topic that can truly change the way you experience life. The subtle things you might be accepting from others that are unknowingly sabotaging your peace and happiness. If you've ever found yourself feeling drained, overwhelmed, or out of balance, and you're not sure why, this episode is for you. We're going to uncover how certain behaviors, words, and emotional exchanges can gradually erode your well-being, leaving you feeling stuck, anxious, or even unfulfilled. Many of us go through life without questioning the influences we encounter daily. Some things may seem insignificant at first glance, comments, actions, or expectations from those around us, but in reality, they could be eating away at your mental peace and spiritual health without you even noticing. Have you ever been caught up in a situation where someone's opinion or energy took a toll on your mood? Or where you found yourself giving too much and feeling depleted afterward? You're not alone in this. It's all too easy to accept things from others without realizing the impact they have on us. But here's the good news. By becoming aware of these hidden influences and learning to protect your energy, you can regain control over your life, your peace, and your happiness. Today, we're going to focus on 5 specific things that, according to the teachings of Buddhism, you should never accept from others if you want to safeguard your inner serenity. These aren't just practical pieces of advice. They're deeply rooted in spiritual wisdom. According to Buddhist philosophy, everything in this world is made up of energy. Words, thoughts, emotions, even actions, they all carry energy that can either uplift us or drag us down. Everything we accept from others, be it their words, their judgments, their emotional baggage, or their expectations, can either nourish our soul or leave us feeling depleted. This is especially important when we consider the interconnectedness of all beings and the ways in which our energy exchanges shape our environment and our experience of life. Why does this matter? Because when we unconsciously accept harmful energy or influences, we are essentially allowing them to take root in our minds, affecting not only our peace of mind but also our emotional and spiritual growth. In Buddhism, there's a strong focus on cultivating mindful awareness, the ability to stay present and conscious of what we allow into our lives. We are encouraged to practice discernment, to separate what is nourishing for our soul from what is toxic. But here's where many of us get stuck. We don't realize how often we accept things that drain us, simply because we haven't developed the awareness to notice these influences as they happen. You might find yourself taking on someone else's stress, agreeing to things out of guilt, or tolerating relationships that are not serving your highest good. These patterns, though seemingly harmless, can slowly block your ability to experience peace, happiness, and true fulfillment. In today's episode, we'll not only discuss what to avoid accepting but also explore why these things are so dangerous to your well-being. And more importantly, how to protect your energy. Through the lens of Buddhist teachings, we'll learn how to practice discernment, set healthy boundaries, and make wiser choices that align with our values and inner peace. If you want to live a more balanced, harmonious life, one that's free from unnecessary stress, negativity, and emotional burden, this episode will be a game changer. Whether you're looking to cultivate more inner peace, build stronger, more positive relationships, or simply feel more at ease in your everyday life, the insights shared today can serve as a transformative tool for positive change. So, sit back, take a deep breath, and let's begin this journey toward greater mindfulness, clarity, and energy protection. Together, we'll discover how to protect what truly matters in our lives and stop accepting anything that doesn't serve our highest good. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to remind you to take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. By doing so, you're not only supporting the channel, but also ensuring that you won't miss any future episodes packed with transformative insights like this one. And in the comments below, I invite you to share your thoughts, experiences, or the mantra, "I deserve peace, happiness, and prosperity in my life." Saying this out loud is a powerful affirmation of your intent to protect your energy and create a life that aligns with your true desires. Now, Let's begin uncovering these 5 things you should never accept from others if you want to safeguard your peace and happiness. 1. Destructive criticism and negative comments. The power of words in Buddhist philosophy. In Buddhist philosophy, words are considered incredibly powerful. They are not just forms of communication. They carry energy and can have a profound effect on our minds and spirits. The teachings emphasize that words can be both constructive or destructive, depending on their intent and how they're received. The spoken word has the power to uplift, heal, and inspire, but it can also harm, wound, and disturb our inner peace. When someone gives us destructive criticism or negative comments, these words can act as hidden agents of negativity, slowly infiltrating our thoughts and emotions. The key here is that criticism, though it may be framed as constructive or helpful, often carries underlying negativity that can undermine our confidence and self-worth. In Buddhist thought, every word we speak or hear leaves an energetic imprint on our consciousness. And when the words are negative, they can be like seeds planted in our hearts that, over time, grow into deep-rooted feelings of self-doubt or insecurity. Buddha's teachings about right speech encourage us to be mindful not only of the words we speak, but also of the words we accept from others. We must ask ourselves, are these words aligned with kindness and truth, or are they infused with judgment, criticism, or harmful intent? The hidden harm of negative feedback. When we accept negative feedback or criticism without questioning its source or validity, we risk internalizing these negative beliefs about ourselves. According to Buddhism, this is similar to accepting harmful energy into our hearts and minds. When we hear criticism, we must be aware of how it affects us, because if we don't consciously process it, it can begin to shape our self-perception in a harmful way. For example, imagine someone tells you that your work isn't good enough, or that you're not performing as well as you should. While they may say it in a way that seems constructive, negative words, even when said with the best of intentions, can still have a significant impact. If we accept those comments without filtering them, they may sink into our subconscious and over time, influence how we see ourselves. We may begin to doubt our abilities or feel unworthy. And this emotional suffering can affect all areas of our lives. In Buddhist practice, attachment to negative feedback is a form of suffering. We attach ourselves to these criticisms, letting them define us. When we let criticism enter without discernment, it clings to us like a stain on our spirit, affecting our ability to remain calm and peaceful. Furthermore, this negative energy can create a ripple effect. When we internalize criticism, we often carry it with us, letting it shape our relationships, our work, and our overall outlook on life. This negative feedback doesn't just affect our confidence, it also clouds our judgment, leading us to make decisions from a place of fear, insecurity, or self-doubt. How to deal with negative criticism. Buddhism teaches us the importance of mindfulness when we encounter criticism or negative feedback. Mindfulness allows us to pause, reflect, and observe what is being said before we accept it or reject it. The practice of mindfulness creates a space between the words we hear and our emotional reaction, giving us time to choose how we will respond. Here are some ways we can protect our energy when faced with destructive criticism. 1. Filter the information. Not all criticism is valuable. According to Buddhist teachings, we must be discerning about the feedback we receive. When someone criticizes us, we need to ask ourselves, does this criticism come from a place of kindness and truth, or is it driven by negativity? If the feedback is constructive and has the potential to help us grow, we can accept it. However, if it's based on judgment or harm, we should reject it. This filtering process helps us avoid absorbing unnecessary negative energy. 2. Question the intent. Before accepting criticism, we should pause and reflect on the intent behind the words. Is the person offering feedback with genuine concern for our growth? Or are they projecting their own frustrations or insecurities onto us? If we suspect the criticism is motivated by someone else's emotional baggage, we can let it go without allowing it to affect our peace. 3. Protect your self-worth according to Buddhism. Our self-worth should not be dependent on the opinions of others. If someone offers criticism that causes us to question our abilities or worth, we must remind ourselves of our innate value. This practice helps us to stay grounded in our own truth and not let the judgments of others define us. 4. Use criticism as a tool for growth, while rejecting harmful criticism is essential. We can also use feedback, both positive and negative, as a tool for self-improvement. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life is an opportunity for learning and growth. When we receive criticism, we can ask ourselves, how can I learn from this? Even if the feedback is difficult to hear, we can choose to see it as a stepping stone towards becoming a better version of ourselves. 5. Cultivate inner strength. One of the most powerful ways to protect our peace from destructive criticism is by cultivating inner strength and self-confidence. In Buddhism, practices like meditation, mindfulness, and self-reflection help build resilience, allowing us to maintain a sense of inner peace no matter what external challenges we face. The more rooted we are in our own sense of self-worth, the less impact negative words will have on us. Remember, you are not defined by the words of others. In fact, the Buddha often taught that our true nature is beyond words, beyond labels, beyond opinions. When we internalize the negative feedback of others, we are giving away our power. But when we practice discernment and protect our energy, we empower ourselves to live in alignment with our true nature, one of peace, love, and joy. 2. Guilt and social pressure. The burden of guilt and external expectations. One of the most pervasive sources of emotional suffering is the guilt we carry, often stemming from the expectations and demands placed upon us by others. In modern society, many of us are conditioned to feel responsible for the well-being of those around us, even when we have no direct control over their problems or emotions. This sense of responsibility can be overwhelming, especially when it conflicts with our own personal desires, needs, and goals. Have you ever felt guilty for not meeting someone else's expectations? Maybe it's a family member who expects you to behave in a certain way, a friend who expects you to always be available, or a colleague who believes you should take on more work. We often internalize these expectations, assuming that we are obligated to meet them, even at the expense of our own well-being. Guilt can act as an invisible burden that weighs us down emotionally. It drains our energy and distracts us from living in the present moment. Instead of feeling free to make choices that align with our true selves, we may feel obligated to live up to the expectations of others, even when they don't align with our own values or desires. This can create anxiety, stress, and frustration, an ongoing cycle of trying to please others while neglecting our own needs. Buddhist wisdom on responsibility. Buddhism offers a profound perspective on responsibility and guilt. According to Buddhist teachings, we are reminded that not everything is our responsibility. In fact, one of the core principles of Buddhism is the concept of detachment from the burdens of others. Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling to things that are outside our control, and often, the emotions or problems of others are beyond our control. When we feel guilty for not meeting someone else's needs or expectations, we are taking on responsibility that does not belong to us. This is where the cycle of self-blame begins. We start to believe that if someone is unhappy or disappointed, it is because we have failed them in some way. But in truth, each individual is responsible for their own emotions and experiences. Other people's emotional states are not our burden to carry. Buddhism encourages us to be mindful of how much energy we invest in other people's issues. True compassion does not mean taking on the weight of someone else's problems. It means offering understanding and support without becoming emotionally entangled in their suffering. Buddha's teachings help us to recognize the difference between compassion and codependency, the former being a loving kindness toward others, and the latter being the unconscious acceptance of guilt or responsibility that is not ours to bear. How to free yourself from guilt. The key to freeing ourselves from guilt and external expectations is discernment, the ability to recognize what is truly our responsibility and what is not. Without this clarity, we may become entangled in the lives of others, taking on their emotional burdens as if they were our own. However, once we cultivate the wisdom to distinguish between what we are responsible for and what we are not, we can begin to release the guilt that weighs us down. Here are some practical steps you can take to free yourself from guilt and protect your mental peace. 1. Recognize what is not your responsibility. The first step is to become aware of the emotional and mental burdens you are carrying that do not belong to you. This includes accepting that you cannot fix everyone's problems, and that you are not responsible for how others feel. For example, if someone is upset because of a situation you had no control over, you are not responsible for their emotions. Learning to let go of this type of emotional responsibility can help you release unnecessary guilt. 2. Set healthy boundaries. In order to protect yourself from the expectations and emotional demands of others, it is crucial to set clear boundaries. These boundaries can be physical, emotional, or mental, and they are a way of signaling to others that you are not available to carry their burdens. By setting healthy boundaries, you are creating space for yourself to focus on your own well-being, without feeling guilty for saying no or limiting your involvement in others' issues. For example, if a friend constantly asks for your help but it negatively affects your own life, it's okay to say no. You can still offer support or compassion, but it doesn't mean you have to carry their emotional weight. 3. Practice self-compassion. Buddhism teaches the importance of self-compassion, which involves being kind and understanding with ourselves, especially when we make mistakes. Instead of harshly criticizing yourself for not meeting someone else's expectations, practice self-compassion and recognize that you are doing the best you can. You are worthy of love and care, regardless of whether or not you meet every external expectation placed upon you. 4. Let go of people-pleasing. One of the most common sources of guilt comes from the unconscious desire to please others. Many of us fear rejection or disapproval, so we say yes to things we don't want to do in order to avoid disappointing others. However, constantly trying to please everyone only leads to burnout and frustration. Buddhism encourages us to act with intention and purpose, rather than out of a desire to please others. When we make choices based on our own values and needs, we are living authentically. 5. Mindful reflection. Take time each day to reflect mindfully on your relationships and responsibilities. Ask yourself, am I carrying any guilt that doesn't belong to me? Am I trying to meet expectations that aren't aligned with my values? Through regular reflection, you can become more aware of when guilt arises and why, helping you to break free from patterns of self-blame and emotional overburdening. 6. Accept that you can't control others. One of the most freeing realizations is that we cannot control how others feel, think, or behave. Each individual is on their own unique journey, and while we can offer support, we cannot fix or change their emotional state. Letting go of the need to control others' emotions is a liberating step toward inner peace. When we stop trying to fix others, we can focus more on healing ourselves and protecting our own energy. 7. Cultivate emotional detachment. Buddhist wisdom teaches the art of detachment, not in the sense of being indifferent, but in the sense of not allowing external circumstances or others' emotions to disturb our inner peace. Detachment helps us to maintain a calm and balanced state, no matter what is happening around us. It involves recognizing that we can care for others without becoming emotionally entangled in their experiences. Conclusion: freeing yourself from guilt. By learning to discern what is truly our responsibility and setting healthy boundaries, we free ourselves from the emotional burden of guilt and social pressure. This allows us to live more freely and authentically, unburdened by the expectations of others. Through the wisdom of Buddhism, we learn that guilt is a form of suffering that arises when we cling to responsibilities that aren't ours. By letting go of this unnecessary emotional weight, we create space for peace, joy, and inner freedom. 3. The emotions of others. Understanding emotional boundaries. One of the most subtle yet insidious ways our peace can be disrupted is through the emotions of others. We all encounter people who are experiencing intense emotions, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, or fear, and it can be difficult to remain unaffected by their emotional state. Often, without even realizing it, we can absorb these emotions, as though they are our own. Have you ever been in a room where someone was upset, and suddenly, you started to feel upset too, even though you didn't have a reason to? This is the result of emotional contagion, where the feelings of others unconsciously seep into us. If you are highly empathetic or sensitive, this can be especially draining. While empathy is a valuable trait, it's important to recognize when we are taking on someone else's emotional burdens as our own. When we accept another person's emotions, particularly their negative emotions, we risk becoming emotionally overwhelmed and drained. It can be like carrying a weight that isn't ours to bear. Over time, this can leave us feeling depleted, stressed, and even mentally exhausted. This is why it is crucial to understand emotional boundaries, the invisible lines that protect our emotional space and help us differentiate between our own feelings and those of others. Buddhism's teachings on emotional boundaries. Buddhism places a strong emphasis on mindfulness and emotional clarity. According to Buddhist teachings, one of the primary sources of suffering is the attachment to external circumstances, including the emotions of others. Buddha teaches that suffering arises when we become overly entangled in the emotions and problems of those around us. This emotional attachment can drain our energy and cloud our inner peace. Buddhism encourages us to develop the wisdom to separate our own emotions from those of others. Emotional detachment, in the Buddhist sense, does not mean we become cold or indifferent to others' pain or suffering. Rather, it means we maintain our emotional clarity and do not allow others' emotional states to dictate how we feel. We can empathize with someone's pain, but we don't need to take it on as our own. Buddha also taught the importance of mindful awareness of our emotional states. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our emotions without becoming consumed by them. When we are mindful, we can recognize when we are reacting to someone else's emotions instead of responding from our own authentic feelings. This ability to differentiate is key to maintaining emotional well-being and inner peace. How to protect your energy from others' emotions. One of the most important steps in protecting your energy is to set emotional boundaries. This involves recognizing that while we can offer support and empathy, we do not have to carry the emotions of others. Here are a few practical ways to protect your emotional health from being overwhelmed by the feelings of others. 1. Recognize the signs of emotional contagion. The first step in protecting your energy is to become aware of when you are absorbing someone else's emotions. When you suddenly start feeling anxious, sad, or frustrated without any clear reason, it's a sign that you might be picking up on the emotional energy around you. Take a moment to reflect. Are these emotions truly yours, or are they coming from someone else? 2. Create emotional space. While it's important to empathize with others, it's equally important to maintain emotional space. You can offer compassion and support without becoming emotionally entangled in someone else's feelings. One way to do this is by consciously choosing not to engage in emotional drama. You can listen to someone's problems without letting their negative energy consume you. 3. Set clear boundaries. When you are around people who frequently project negative emotions, it's crucial to set clear emotional boundaries. This can mean physically distancing yourself, if necessary, or mentally creating a protective shield around your own emotional state. You can say to yourself, I'm here to support this person, but I do not have to absorb their emotions. Visualizing a protective bubble of light around you can be an effective way to maintain emotional distance. 4. Practice mindfulness and emotional awareness. Mindfulness is an invaluable tool for recognizing when we are being affected by the emotions of others. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. When you notice your emotions changing in response to someone else's, take a step back and reflect on what's happening. Ask yourself, what emotion am I truly feeling? Is this my emotion? Or am I taking on someone else's? 5. Engage in self-care. Protecting your emotional energy also involves taking care of yourself. Regular practices such as meditation, breathing exercises, and journaling can help you stay grounded in your own emotions and keep your energy clear. Spending time alone, in nature, or engaging in activities that nourish your soul will help recharge your emotional batteries. 6. Let go of guilt. Often, when we try to protect ourselves from others' emotions, we feel guilty or selfish. Guilt arises from the belief that we should always be available to others, no matter the cost to our own well-being. But in reality, self-care is not selfish. If you're constantly giving your emotional energy to others, you may end up with nothing left for yourself. Recognize that you are allowed to set boundaries in order to protect your peace and energy. 7. Practice compassion without attachment. Buddhism teaches that true compassion comes without attachment. Compassion is not about rescuing others or taking on their pain. It is about offering kindness, understanding, and presence, while still respecting your own emotional boundaries. You can offer compassion to someone in need without allowing their emotions to dictate your own state of being. 8. Use affirmations to protect your energy. One powerful tool for protecting your energy is the use of affirmations. When you feel the emotions of others encroaching on your space, repeat to yourself, "I am in control of my emotions. I am protected and at peace. I choose not to take on the emotions of others." These affirmations can help anchor your sense of self and maintain emotional boundaries. 9. Seek support from like-minded people. Surrounding yourself with people who share similar values and emotional awareness can be incredibly empowering. A supportive community of individuals who understand the importance of emotional boundaries can help you maintain clarity and peace, even in challenging emotional environments. These relationships can offer mutual support and ensure that you're not shouldering emotional burdens alone. Conclusion: mastering emotional boundaries. Protecting your energy from the emotions of others is essential for maintaining emotional clarity, peace, and balance. By setting emotional boundaries, practicing mindfulness, and cultivating compassion without attachment, you can prevent yourself from becoming overwhelmed by the emotional baggage of others. This allows you to stay rooted in your own emotions and live a more peaceful, empowered life. Remember, you are not responsible for how others feel. You can offer love, support, and empathy without taking on their emotional weight. By mastering emotional boundaries, you protect your energy and preserve your inner peace, ensuring that you remain strong and resilient in the face of life's emotional challenges. 4. Toxic relationships and harmful attachments. The impact of toxic relationships. The relationships we engage in have a profound impact on our emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners, can either nourish us or drain us. Sometimes, we accept relationships that, deep down, we know are harmful to our peace and happiness. These toxic relationships can be a major source of emotional suffering, often leaving us feeling exhausted, frustrated, and unfulfilled. Toxic relationships are characterized by negativity, manipulation, and lack of mutual respect. In such relationships, one person may constantly belittle, criticize, or emotionally drain the other, even though these relationships may not always appear toxic at first. Over time, the accumulated emotional burden becomes overwhelming. The negative energy in such relationships can create mental chaos, disrupt our peace of mind, and prevent us from experiencing true emotional growth. Toxic people often demand too much of our time and energy without offering the same level of support or respect in return. They may create feelings of guilt, fear, or obligation, making it hard to break free from their influence. The longer we stay in these relationships, the more likely we are to feel stuck and powerless, unable to pursue our own goals or happiness. Buddhism teaches us that our relationships should be a source of support, love, and peace. When we accept toxic relationships, we are inviting negative energy into our lives that obstructs our journey toward happiness and personal growth. It is essential to recognize the signs of toxic relationships and take steps to protect our energy from their harmful effects. Buddhism's view on attachment and suffering. According to Buddhist philosophy, attachment is one of the root causes of suffering. In fact, Buddha taught that our attachment to people, situations, or outcomes is a major source of our emotional turmoil. When we become overly attached to unhealthy relationships or cling to people who do not serve our best interests, we bind ourselves to suffering. In Buddhism, the term attachment refers not only to our need for material things, but also to our emotional dependency on others. We may find ourselves clinging to relationships out of fear of loneliness, a desire for validation, or a sense of duty. However, these attachments often prevent us from experiencing the freedom and peace that comes with letting go. Buddha's teachings on impermanence remind us that all things, including relationships, are transient. Clinging to people who bring negativity into our lives only keeps us stuck in cycles of dissatisfaction and emotional suffering. Buddhism encourages us to recognize the impermanent nature of all relationships. This doesn't mean we should avoid relationships altogether, but rather that we should learn to let go of relationships that are not aligned with our growth and well-being. Non-attachment in Buddhism doesn't mean indifference or detachment from all relationships. It simply means recognizing that our happiness does not depend on others, and we should not allow anyone to control or diminish our inner peace. When we let go of unhealthy attachments, we make space for more meaningful, healthy, and peaceful relationships. We are better able to cultivate relationships that are built on mutual respect, compassion, and understanding, relationships that help us grow and support our path toward inner peace. How to break free from toxic relationships. Buddhism offers practical tools to help us break free from toxic relationships and unhealthy attachments, so we can preserve our mental and emotional energy. Here are several steps, rooted in Buddhist wisdom, to help us navigate toxic relationships and cultivate healthier connections. 1. Recognize the signs of toxicity. The first step in breaking free from toxic relationships is recognizing that they exist. Toxic relationships often manifest through manipulation, constant drama, emotional abuse, or a lack of support. If you find yourself feeling drained, anxious, or unworthy after interacting with someone, it may be a sign that the relationship is not serving your best interests. Awareness is the first step in changing your circumstances. 2. Set healthy boundaries. Buddhism teaches us the importance of setting healthy boundaries to protect our peace. In toxic relationships, boundaries are often violated, whether it's through excessive demands, manipulative behavior, or emotional blackmail. Setting clear boundaries means learning to say no when necessary and asserting your needs without guilt. Boundaries are an act of self-love and self-respect, and they create a safe space where we can cultivate our well-being. 3. Let go of attachment. Buddhism encourages us to let go of attachments, including those to toxic relationships. This doesn't mean that we stop caring for the other person, but rather that we recognize when a relationship is no longer healthy for us. Letting go means freeing ourselves from emotional dependency and understanding that we are whole and complete on our own. Non-attachment doesn't mean we stop loving others. It means we love without conditions or expectations. 4. Practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism. Holding on to anger or resentment in toxic relationships only causes suffering for ourselves. To protect our peace, we must learn to forgive, not for the sake of the other person, but for our own freedom. Forgiveness allows us to release negative emotions and move forward, unburdened by past wounds. Compassionate detachment is key in breaking free from toxic relationships without harboring ill will. 5. Seek support from like-minded individuals. Buddhism teaches the value of a supportive community, or sangha, in our spiritual journey. To break free from toxic relationships, it's crucial to surround ourselves with people who encourage our growth, respect our boundaries, and support our well-being. Having a strong support system of like-minded individuals can empower us to make healthier decisions and navigate difficult relationships with wisdom and compassion. 6. Engage in meditation and self-reflection. Meditation and self-reflection are powerful tools for breaking free from toxic relationships. Regular meditation practice helps us detach from unhealthy emotional patterns and connect with our inner wisdom. Self-reflection helps us identify why we are drawn to toxic relationships and what lessons we need to learn. By engaging in mindful reflection, we gain clarity and can make decisions that are in alignment with our highest good. 7. Cultivate self-love and self-worth. Buddhism teaches that true happiness comes from within. When we cultivate self-love and self-worth, we no longer feel the need to seek validation or approval from toxic people. We recognize that our value is not dependent on others, and we can choose relationships that reflect our own dignity and respect. Self-compassion is a cornerstone of Buddhist teachings, and practicing it allows us to make decisions from a place of inner strength and peace. Conclusion: embracing healthy relationships. Breaking free from toxic relationships is essential for protecting our emotional well-being and creating a life filled with peace and growth. By following Buddhist teachings on attachment, boundaries, and forgiveness, we can free ourselves from the negative influences of toxic relationships and cultivate healthy, nurturing connections. These relationships support our journey towards self-discovery, inner peace, and happiness. Remember, the key is to love and support others without losing ourselves in the process. We have the power to choose the relationships that bring us joy, growth, and balance, and to let go of those that drain us. By embracing healthy relationships, we create space for love, peace, and prosperity to enter our lives. 5. Settling for unfulfilling lives and lack of self-respect. The dangers of settling for less. In our lives, we often find ourselves settling for situations, jobs, or relationships that do not fulfill us. This is a common response to fear, self-doubt, or a belief that we don't deserve better. We might convince ourselves that this is as good as it gets, or that we must endure our circumstances because we have no other choice. However, when we settle for less than what we truly desire or deserve, we engage in a form of self-neglect that can prevent us from reaching our full potential. Settling for less doesn't just happen in large life decisions. It can also occur in everyday choices, such as tolerating negative behavior from others or accepting a job that doesn't align with our skills and values. This behavior erodes our self-esteem over time, and we may even start to believe that we are not worthy of more or better. The danger of this is that we begin to tolerate mediocrity, and in doing so, we deny ourselves the opportunity for growth and fulfillment. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness and inner peace come from living in alignment with our authentic selves, our true values, and our desires. When we settle for less than what is in harmony with who we truly are, we block our ability to experience true joy and contentment. By staying in situations that are not in line with our potential, we limit ourselves and disconnect from the deeper sense of purpose that life has to offer. Buddhist wisdom on living authentically. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of living authentically and being true to ourselves. The teachings remind us that each individual is unique, with their own set of values, desires, and purpose. To live authentically means to be honest with ourselves and others about what we truly want and need in life. It is about listening to our inner voice and making decisions that align with our true nature. Settling for less than we deserve is, according to Buddhism, a form of self-sabotage. When we ignore our authentic needs and desires, we compromise our happiness and well-being. The practice of mindfulness allows us to be more in touch with ourselves, helping us recognize when we are settling for less and guiding us to make better choices. Buddha's teachings on self-awareness and impermanence encourage us to embrace change, growth, and transformation as we align our lives with our true potential. Living authentically also means recognizing and embracing the impermanence of life. Just as everything in life is subject to change, so too should our approach to life. We should not feel confined to a set of expectations imposed by society, others, or even our own past decisions. Buddhism teaches us that liberation comes from living with the awareness that we can evolve, that we are not trapped in any situation, and that we have the power to create the life we truly desire. How to stop settling for less. To protect our peace and happiness, we must first recognize our own worth. The most important step in breaking free from settling for less is to acknowledge that we deserve more joy, more fulfillment, more peace. The concept of self-respect is fundamental in this process. If we cannot respect ourselves enough to demand better, we are likely to stay in situations that compromise our well-being. Once we recognize our worth, we begin to set higher standards for ourselves. This means choosing what is best for our physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Whether it's a job, a relationship, or a lifestyle, we must begin to make decisions that bring us fulfillment, peace, and purpose. Buddhism encourages us to let go of attachments to situations that no longer serve us and to embrace change as an essential part of growth. Here are a few steps to stop settling for less. 1. Know your worth. Acknowledge your intrinsic value. In Buddhism, the practice of self-compassion helps us recognize that we are worthy of love, respect, and happiness simply because we exist. By developing a deep sense of self-love, we cultivate the inner strength to reject situations that undermine our well-being. 2. Set boundaries and standards. One of the keys to living authentically is setting healthy boundaries. We cannot expect others to treat us with respect if we don't establish clear boundaries. Setting high standards means not tolerating mediocrity, whether that's in a job, relationship, or any area of life. Buddha teaches us that wisdom comes from knowing what is good for us and what isn't. 3. Let go of fear. Fear often keeps us trapped in situations where we feel unfulfilled. Buddhism teaches that fear arises from our attachment to the illusory idea of control. The real freedom comes when we let go of our attachments and fears, trusting that change is a natural and beneficial part of life. Let go of the fear of making the wrong decision. Trust in your inner wisdom and take steps toward what truly resonates with you. 4. Embrace change and impermanence. Life is constantly evolving, and the impermanent nature of existence is one of Buddhism's central teachings. Embrace change as an opportunity for growth and renewal. Don't fear letting go of relationships, jobs, or lifestyles that no longer serve you. Change is a path to greater happiness, peace, and fulfillment. 5. Take action. While mindfulness and self-awareness are important, they must be coupled with action. Buddhism teaches us that right action is essential to living a meaningful life. If you find yourself in a situation that no longer serves you, take the necessary steps to move forward. Whether it's changing careers, leaving a toxic relationship, or pursuing a new goal, taking decisive action is key to manifesting the life you desire. 6. Surround yourself with supportive people. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of a supportive community, or sangha, in our journey. When we surround ourselves with like-minded, positive, and inspiring individuals, we empower ourselves to raise our standards and take steps toward a fulfilling life. A strong support system encourages us to make the necessary changes and provides the emotional support we need along the way. Conclusion: living a life of fulfillment and respect. To live a meaningful and fulfilled life, we must stop settling for less than we deserve. By recognizing our worth, setting high standards, and taking action, we can create a life that is aligned with our authentic self. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness comes when we live authentically and respect our own needs, desires, and values. Living in alignment with our true selves may require making difficult decisions and embracing change. But it is through these steps that we find true peace and joy. Self-respect, self-love, and non-attachment are key pillars in this journey. And by practicing them, we empower ourselves to live a life of freedom, fulfillment, and harmony. Remember, you are worthy of a life filled with peace, happiness, and growth. Don't settle for less than what you deserve. The path to a fulfilling life begins with the recognition of your own worth and the courage to live in alignment with your true desires and values. In summary, protecting your peace and happiness begins with being mindful of what you allow into your life. Throughout today's episode, we've explored 5 powerful influences that, if left unchecked, can sabotage your well-being: destructive criticism, guilt and external expectations, emotional baggage, toxic relationships, and settling for less. Each of these is something that, with awareness and mindfulness, we have the power to control. Buddhist teachings offer us transformative tools to protect our energy, set healthy boundaries, and live authentically. By applying these principles, we can create a life that is fulfilled, balanced, and peaceful, a life that aligns with our true values and desires. Remember, your inner peace is a precious treasure. It is the foundation of your happiness. Protect it by choosing what you accept into your life, whether it's rejecting negative feedback, releasing guilt, setting emotional boundaries, distancing yourself from toxic relationships, or finally stopping the habit of settling for less. These steps empower you to live with greater clarity, purpose, and joy. Now, think about it. What are you accepting into your life that might be draining your energy and holding you back? What changes can you make today to reclaim your peace and live a life that truly serves you? The journey toward peace and happiness is ongoing, and each step you take brings you closer to the life you deserve. But this is just the beginning. In our next episode, we'll dive even deeper into the practical steps you can take to protect your energy, build stronger boundaries, and live a life of authenticity and empowerment. We'll uncover some powerful techniques you can apply every single day to make sure your inner peace is untouchable. So, if you're ready to take control of your energy and create a life that reflects your highest potential, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who might need it. And in the comments, share one thing you're ready to stop accepting in your life to protect your peace. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, the power to transform your life is in your hands, and the journey has just begun. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, take good care of your mind, body, and spirit.